Days have passed and Rhazin is still MIA, with no answers to Senzal and Kenna's burning questions. While Senzal continues to focus on finding Rhazin, Kenna has an opportunity they can't afford to waste. In Rhazin's absence, approval for projects falls onto the head of the Siltforge Corps of Engineers, which happens to be Kenna. It's the perfect time for them to implement their plan for a transit system to connect the now expansive edges of the colony, in a bid to not run afoul of the rest of the Corps of Engineers. Kenna's plan prioritizes safety and minimizes material expenditure by locating the tubeway above existing pathways, rather than tunneling underneath the colony. The tubeway will bolster the existing roadway system, allowing beavers to move themselves and supplies across the colony in record time. So let's make this dream of Kenna's a reality. In today's episode, we'll plan out and build a tubeway system, which will allow our beavers to get around at 300% speed. Since a full tubeway is a bit too much for our current production capacity, we'll prioritize the main movements across the colony, targeting the storage area, our housing barracks, and the industry. So let's press on. Hello, and welcome back to Siltforge. So we need to build a tubeway system. We're going to build it from over here in our storage. We're going to make a stop by our breeding area because that is where most of our beavers end up going to and fro. And we're also going to put a stop over here near our industry. We are going to build it above this path, so it'll just go from over here all the way down, and we'll figure out what it does over here at the point that we get to that. And really, that is the entirety of what could be called the plan currently. So to begin this, we're going to come down here and we're going to go to paths and structures. We are going to find the tubeway in the same place that we found the zip lines for the folktales. So it's going to be these three options right here. We're going to have the tubeway station. That's going to be 700 science points, 40 planks, 20 gears, and 20 metal. We're going to have the tubeway. That's going to be 2 planks and 1 metal. And the vertical tubeway. So this is going to be similar to the vertical power shaft, where you can build up and across and whatever you want to do. And you can even build like paths on top of these vertical ones. You can do all that same stuff with the vertical tubeway. It's solid and you don't have to build a path if you're building something above it. So we are just going to go ahead and we're going to unlock all 3 of these so we don't have to do it manually when we are building. And then actually getting this in place is going to be, in my opinion, simpler than a zipline station. So we're going to start with one of these tubeway stations. I'm just going to put this right here, and then our beavers will come and build this. It does not need to be powered. It doesn't have any jobs. And then the second place I'm going to build one is going to be the terminus of this build today. That's going to be over here. I'm just going to put it right there in our industrial area. And then what we're going to have to do is take these tubeways, make an unbroken line all the way from one station to the other, and then it will function. Which conceptually is obviously very simple. In practice is going to be a little more complicated than I'm perhaps making it sound. So our first tubeway station over here is fully built. We are just going to build some tubeways out here, and then I'm going to build a vertical tubeway so that I can get the tube up 1 level. By which I mean I will put a path there, and then the tubeway will just connect up like that through the vertical tubeway, and then we have raised it 1 level up. Now, conceptually, that is all we're going to do through most of this path. I'm just going to build platforms all the way along. I'm going to have to go too high up here to clear these stairs. And then we will go continue over the path like so. And then on top of these platforms, I will just build tubes. Here I will build vertical tubeways on all of the lower platforms and then tubeways up. Now we could have just done one tubeway all the way up over here and then moved it over, but that honestly would have been more complicated with the platforms that we have. So I did it that way. From this side of the station, we will just pull it out back here. And then we will deal with how we're going to cross this ravine in just a second. Because the one thing I'm going to desperately need to address, all of these tubeways take a block of metal. We currently have 20. Now, a big part of this is that they're not getting enough metal over here. So I'm going to hit prioritize by haulers on this industrial pile, and I will see how that helps to alleviate it. I may have to try something different, but for now, I think we may see this storage fill up, which will mean that these smelters are working at more than 43% efficiency. And now our beavers have completed the majority of this tubeway. We just have to cross this gap here. And while we could build platforms all the way across and gently lower it down, there's actually a much easier method to crossing a gap like this with tubeways. And that's just building across it. By which I mean just something like that. Now, people who have watched previous episodes will know that this area floods with Badwater. So if beavers are down here, they're going to be in danger of getting Badwater flooded. Except beavers in tubeways are not affected by the environment at all when they're in the tubeway. So if they're in Badwater in the tubeway, they won't be affected by it. If they're in regular water in the tubeway, they won't be affected by it. But they also won't get bonuses. So for example, this lantern, the tubeway passes right by it. On this path, beavers will get a bonus to their lantern stat, wherever that is, lantern right there. That will not happen in the tubeway. So when they pass by in the tubeway, they get nothing. They are completely insulated from their environment. Now our beavers will start walking down these stairs to build, but we will also see right here the other benefit the tubeways have over a zip line is that beavers can actually utilize the tubeway before it is completed and use the tubeway to build the tubeway. So they can build from within the pipes themselves. Right here, we're seeing a beaver build from this pipe. And then this should finish in just a second. There we go. And then we will likely see another beaver come down this tubeway to build this bit of pipe. So see, we see him go down here, and then he's building right there. And that one is done, and he travels back up. So despite the fact that this tubeway bit actually cannot be reached by our builders normally, they will be able to build this tubeway section because they can build it from within the tubeway. Now, perhaps counterintuitively, this does not mean that open tubeway sections allow environment in. They still don't. It's a video game. And with the final 2 bits of our tubeway fully installed, we should very quickly here see beavers start to enter and travel down the tubeway. They have these bright little lights, and they will use this as essentially a road to travel back and forth between these 2 tubeway stations. Now, much like zip lines, they can't get off in between. They've just got to go from a station to a station. Now, perhaps the biggest difference between zip lines and tubeway stations is going to be adding additional stops along our current tubeway system. So for zip lines, you'd have to demolish basically the entire connection, build a new one in the middle, and then re-string the entire zip line. That is not the case with tubeways. Adding a new station to a tubeway system is remarkably easy. We are going to add one that is going to better serve the beavers in this housing community, because as we just saw, they all went from this area down to this tubeway to get over to their jobs. So to add a new stop, we're just going to grab a tubeway station. We're going to put it right here in the area I already cleared out. And then we are going to get a vertical tubeway and place it right there. And then much like our power shafts, which will adapt to new power shafts placed next to them, this tubeway will automatically make a T-junction, and we can just connect in right like that. They will build this from the middle of the tubeway, which is always very funny to me. And then just like that, we have another tubeway station, and we will see, as night falls, a bunch of beavers travel down from the industrial area and then exit that tubeway station to walk home. And also get a drink of water. And another good illustration, since there's food over here, they will actually prioritize going to the tubeway and using that speed boost, as opposed to just walking over here or even walking this way. Because of the way the game calculates paths, it is calculating that as the shortest path, even for the beavers that are over here. And then with morning, we will see all of our beavers exit and travel along that tubeway path back up to our industrial area up here, and some over here to, I guess, go to Canolaville. So maybe we should add a tubeway station over there at some point. But this is illustrative of the fact that it is very easy to add these tubeway stations, and even having ones that are, maybe 15 blocks away from each other over here, can still be quite useful and will be used by the beavers in your colony. Now, I will expand this two-way system as time goes on. For example, we should probably have another two-way stop somewhere over here. The entirety of Canolaville is not served by this two-way yet, and I'm sure we will expand more and need even more two-way stops in the future. For right now, there's only one more I do want to do, because I'm realizing that this is a place that our haulers have to go to quite frequently. It's pretty much the only place they're still walking along this path to go that isn't a job. So I am just going to add one more two-way station up here for our haulers and our beavers that need to use it to drink water to use, which is all of them. None of the beavers don't need to drink water. But this will make it a little bit easier for them to get water down here. And also, if they're in the industrial area, they can take this two-way system to get a drink. It'll ultimately be another path that a lot of our beavers will use. And so I think it's worth sneaking in here, especially with how easy tubeways are to add and how little of a distance this is actually to cover extra from where this tubeway was already going. But with the beavers in the middle of doing that, I think it is time to move on from tubeways and on to the next part of the episode. Canola looks across the river at all that Siltforge has managed to accomplish, even in their dear leader's absence. With a thriving industry and a comprehensive recreational space, the Siltforge side of the colony is thriving, especially with the introduction of their new tubeway system. Looking at their own holdings, Canolaville looks pitiful by comparison. They can call themselves a farming haven all they want, but the truth is that they're just a few small cornfields and a handful of farmers. Canolaville's beavers have to cross the river just to go to their jobs and enjoy their leisure time. But without a reason for Siltforge beavers to enter Canolaville, there's little hope of convincing the powers that be to expand the tubeway system across river. Long before they were known as Canola, however, Jojen knew how this game was played. Canolaville will never be taken seriously until it takes itself seriously, and that will require some serious renovation. Canola knows it'll be a long road, but the first step is a small one. If Canolaville is going to be the farming center of Siltforge, they're going to have to center farming. So it is finally time to deal with this farm. As we know, we built this a few episodes ago now. It's okay. It's been keeping us alive so far. But it's just corn. I mean, there's this canola that I don't think we do anything with currently. And maybe we should think about that. We do have a full thing of canola oil, but we don't do anything with this canola. I don't think we do anything with these soybeans. We mostly just have this corn, and that's the only thing we do anything with. We'll also expand some of this forester area, and we will redo these water pumps. But first, just so that I don't accidentally kill everybody, let's give them a few temporary storage places for more corn. This way, at the very least, we won't run out of food while we are in the process of doing this, which is probably the main concern here. I will just preemptively get rid of, not the lumberjack flag, this structure here, which will spill out all over the place. These have 2 weeks to go, so those will be fine. We're also not doing anything with the cassava. We've got a lot of plants we don't do anything with. And next episode, we will start dealing with that. We'll expand this once again. But I'm going to preempt that by having the actual plants here for them to use once we get to that point. And since they've now eliminated the corn that occupies the spot that I wanted to use, and by eliminated, I do mean harvested, we will get that out of here. We will try to pick as close of a spot to directly in the middle of this area as we can. We will dynamite it. We'll grab another water pourer and another small tank. Water pourer fluid dump. And then with that new one up and running, we will eliminate this old one, spilling out the water everywhere. And I will also take this time to actually get rid of all of these crops here for the moment. I am also at the end of this path going to build us a way up here. And then up on this ridge, I am going to build another fluid dump, so that we will also have this area to cultivate for farmland. And then with that new water infrastructure in place, it's just a matter of moving some of this other stuff, building a few more farm buildings, and then planting new crops. Now I'm going to start, just because it's easy, I'm going to cover this entire ridge with oaks. Can't go any further over there, and I'm going to cover this area also with oaks. I'm going to have a total of 4 farmhouses over here, though right now we don't actually have the manpower for all 4 of them, or beaver power, I guess. So I am going to have most of them paused. I'm going to leave a 2x2 square right here, along with an area for an eventual tubeway system. I'm also going to leave an area up here for the tubeway. That'll kind of divide this lumberjack area half and half, but that's fine. And then we will start planting. So I'm going to, I guess I shouldn't have deleted it before. I'm going to give us a field of corn. Goes all the way back there. Now they're not going to be able to plant at this very back, but that's fine. We will then, like I said in the before times, I will plant a bunch of canola because if we do not have enough canola, then that is going to be an issue once we start producing crops over here. I will plant a large field of eggplant, which we have not used yet again because it needs processing. And then for the last of this corner, I'm just going to do a little bit of kohlrabies. I'm going to do a little bit of cassava. And since we do have more down here, I'm going to do just a tiny bit of eggplant. And now it may take a minute for them to get all of that planted because we don't have enough farmers for over here as we will need. But the last thing we will need to plant up here, we have our oaks, but I am going to give us one more thing up here that is going to be coffee bushes. So I need to keep my distance from where the Tubeway system is going to be, and then I will just plant coffee up here. Coffee is going to be another well-being item that we will work on producing in the next episode. The other thing we will see is that we have a couple spots to lay our Tubeway station down here for when we eventually bring it over to this side of the river. And it may take them a minute to get all that in, but they will get all of that in, I am sure. Now we can continue to expand on this ridge and even continue to expand up here if we, once we need more room, or even expand these farms upward. But for now, that will do us just fine. Which does mean that for this episode, there is only one thing left to do. After nearly a cycle of searching, Senzal finally receives a visitor. Rhazin appears in the dead of night, telling Senzal there's something he needs them to see. Leading them to a secret lab underneath the Badwater rig, Rhazin finally unveils what he's been working towards. A new way to birth beavers, fully grown. Senzal is a little taken aback, though secretly relieved to finally have an answer for where all that extract has been going. They inform Rhazin that while their own feelings about the new technology might be apprehensive but accepting, the rest of the colony may not be so willing to go along with it. If they're going to bring this to the public, it may be best to do it in one foul swoop, with no time for protests or delays. Rhazin agrees, and the two get to work. Over here, we're going to take all of our breeding pods, and we are going to get rid of them. We are going to get rid of some of these bushes as well. So we're going to take this opportunity to come down here to housing. We're going to see advanced breeding pod. Now this is going to be 1,000 science points, 5 treated planks, and 2 metal blocks. It's going to take 5 berries, and instead of water, it's going to take 5 extract. Now the difference between the advanced breeding pod and the regular breeding pod is that the advanced breeding pod, when we place it down, is going to pump out fully grown beavers as opposed to baby beavers. So we are just going to use these over here instead of the regular breeding pods we had before. I'm going to place a bunch of them, but some of these I am going to pause because I don't think it is responsible to expand our beaver population to over 120 in what'll probably be 2 cycles. So I am, with these built, just going to take a minute to pause all these on this end. I will let them do these ones, and actually I will open up a 7th. So these breeding pods have roughly the same replacement rate. With 6, we'd probably end up with still 83 beavers. Yeah, 83 beavers as our population. The main difference being that all of those beavers will skip the baby phase, so they won't have that introductory, 6 days? 3 days? I don't remember off the top of my head. That normal beavers have once they are born. They will just be born as adults and be ready to work. And we'll be able to expand this up to the 150 or whatever this will allow. But for now, we will keep it simple at about 7, which should get us up to maybe 95 beavers. And with that, we'll be able to slowly start expanding over here, filling up a lot of these jobs that are currently going unfilled, that are probably all at the hauling post. Well, not all of them, actually. I don't know where they are. And that, I think, is where I'm going to leave this episode off. Thank you so much for watching. I recognize your time is valuable, and you don't have to spend it watching me do my beaver game, but you do, and I appreciate that. As always, Siltforge presses forward. And with the sun rising, Rhazin and Senzal put the finishing touches on their upgrades to the breeding pods. The citizens of Siltforge and Canolaville will soon be aware of their actions, and the consequences, whatever they may be, will begin.